no one more appropriate than President Cyril Ramaphosa to deliver some words of welcome. And we're honored that the President is here with us to say. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Program Director, my dear sister, Your Excellency, Dr. Abdelaziz Gerard, Prime Minister of Algeria, Your Excellency, President Obasanjo, former President of Nigeria, Your Excellency, Ellen Joseph Sirleaf, former President of Liberia, Dr. Adesina, President of the African Development Bank, Professor Harrison, AU Commissioner for Economic Affairs, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor for me to welcome you all to this symposium convened by the African Union Development Agency on the first 20 years of the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD. I'd like to begin by asking that we observe a moment of silence in memory of the many people on our continent and around the world who have lost their lives to COVID-19, and in solidarity with their families, their colleagues, and their communities. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. The coronavirus pandemic has had a severe impact on the African economies, on public health, and indeed on the AU itself. It has cost many lives and threatens many more. It has also served as a stark reminder of our global interconnectedness. Because in the end, what affects one affects us all. It is therefore more critical than ever that we increase our collaboration on all fronts as we confront this new enemy, COVID-19, and as we drive our efforts to recovery. This is particularly important as countries of the world undertake the other important and massive task of procuring, distributing, and providing vaccines to their people. We all continue to work through various institutions that have been set up, and be proud that on our own continent, this challenge that we face has enabled us to strengthen our institutional base, to set up new institutions, and to be able to work through other global institutions such as the Global Access Facility known as COVAX, to ensure equal access to the vaccine and that the needs of poor countries are taken into account so as to ensure that no one and no country is left behind. At the same time, we will pursue our efforts through the other institutions that we set up ourselves on our continent, the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team, which is being guided by our Africa CDC, to complement the work of COVAX, as we battle to contain and eradicate COVID-19, we at the same time have to focus on a number of other key important tasks, particularly our developmental goals as we proceed to the drive to ensure that we have the Africa that we want. Our developmental aspirations are indeed huge as a continent. Strengthening the work of the African Union Development Agency is more than important. I want to commend Dr. Mayaki for his excellent leadership of the agency and for the service that he has rendered towards the socio-economic upliftment of our continent. It is at this milestone in the life of NEPAD that I wish to pay tribute to Presidents Abdelaziz Bouteflika, President Mbeki, President Mubarak, President Obasanjo, and President Wade. In 2001, these outstanding Africans created this Pan-African institution as a flagship project to eradicate poverty, promote sustainable growth and development, also to integrate Africa into the world economy and accelerate the empowerment of women. Together with their fellow African leaders, they developed NEPAD as a new vision and a program of action for sustainable socio-economic development. This aimed to enhance the capacity of African states and regional institutions to fulfill the collective vision of an integrated, peaceful, united, and prosperous Africa. Over its 20 years, NEPAD has promoted programs in areas such as agriculture, health, education and training, the environment, information and communication technology, as well as infrastructure development. It also inspired the Presidential Infrastructure Champion Initiative and prioritized development of regional infrastructure in sectors such as transport, energy, ICT, and transboundary water. Significant progress has also been made in the implementation of the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, which has the potential to facilitate the continental integration in support of our new mega project, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area. An impressive accomplishment of NEPAD has been the strengthening of partnerships with the rest of the world. NEPAD has engaged various institutions that operate at a global level. For instance, the G20, the G8, the OECD, FOCAC, TICAD, and the UN system on a new development cooperation and aid architecture for our continent. Throughout these engagements, NEPAD has been steadfast on the principle of an Africa-led and an Africa-owned development agenda. The transformation of NEPAD into the African Union Development Agency is an opportune time to reflect on the implementation of the NEPAD agenda. We need to strategically position the agency to be even more responsive to the continent's developmental needs. While it is entrusted with ensuring that Africa harnesses the benefits of new sciences, technologies, and innovation, it also has to ensure that historical inequalities and inequities, including gender disparities, are addressed. I trust that this symposium will reflect deeply on the successes and the challenges experienced in implementing NEPAD over the past 2 decades. And I trust that this reflection will help to guide the work of this flagship program for African development well into the future. If there ever was a time when the aspirations of NEPAD are needed, this is the time. As we face a major challenge that spans across the entire continent, we should recall that NEPAD was also established to ensure that we have innovation and technologies. What this continent now needs, which has really been more demonstrated by the challenge that we face as a continent, for instance, on the acquisition of vaccines. This has been clearly demonstrated. So it is for that reason, Program Director, that if we thought that the time for a NEPAD had come 20 years ago, I'd like to reiterate that 20 years later, the time for NEPAD has arrived once again. And I trust that your reflections will help to guide the work of this flagship program for African development well into the future. I wish you every success in your deliberations, and I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this symposium, and I wish you all the best for your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ramaphosa, and indeed, your words are so prescient that it is time we capture once again the imagination of the African citizenry on NEPAD. Mr. President, we are keenly aware that you